Take away my factories, someone once said, and I'll build a new and better factory. But take away my people, and grass will grow on the factory floor. Come on, who said that? Was that some bleeding heart social humanitarian do-gooder who never really had to make a payroll? No. Those are the words of Andrew Carnegie, the immigrant industrialist, a capitalist with a capital C, a man whose bank account in today's dollars would stir envy in the heart of Bill Gates, not to mention John Kohler. And yet here he was talking about the value of people to his steel business, just like the value of people to your men's haircut business. And so I want to be very clear about the premise of this presentation today, and that is very simply this: that creating a focused, engaged, and capably led workforce is one of the best things you can do for your bottom line.
But I've never had quite so many dairy farmers all together in the same room at one time. So I'm going to take this opportunity to ask you the question, because I've been going around the world for 20 years telling business leaders that in the same way that contented cows do give better milk, satisfied, engaged employees give better performances at work, and that always finds its way to your bottom line. So I want to ask you the question: is it true? Do contented cows give better milk? Yes, thank you. All right. So there are two kinds of organizations in this country: those who complain about millennials and those who change their organizations so that they are able to burn the available fuel. Because let's face it, they are not making any more baby boomers. Okay? Production on that model has shut down.
El idioma es una habilidad, ¿no? Y el liderazgo es una habilidad. Y podemos mejorar los ambos con la práctica. Seguiré practicando mi castellano y quiero que ustedes sigan practicando su liderazgo. Y ahora, con su permiso, continuaré en inglés.
But nothing that I tell you matters today unless two things. Number one, unless your farm is an exceptional place to work. And I mean exceptional. Now, I don't know very many of you. I've spoken with a few since I got here yesterday, but I can't tell you that I know you. But I can tell you with some degree of certainty, most of you, your farm is not an exceptional place to work. Your farm is a fine place to work. Your farm does not suck. But I have to tell you, in the year 2017, in the competitive environment for the labor and the talent market, failure to suck is no longer good enough.
Now, I said earlier, it's not about a mission statement. How many of you, I'm just curious, how many of you, for your company, you have a mission statement published somewhere? That's great. Guess what? Nobody cares about your mission statement. I'm sorry to tell you that. They don't. If you've hired the right people, they care a lot about your mission. They just don't care about your mission statement. However, if you do need a new mission statement, I can recommend a book. This is a real book, the Mission Statement book, 301 Corporate Mission Statements from America's Top Companies, $17.95. And in this book, you will find such jewels as this. Our mission is to maximize shareholder value and satisfy our customers' needs while providing our employees a rewarding and productive work environment and conducting our affairs responsibly in the community. We will accomplish this mission by creating a corporate vision of successful growth, by carefully managing our assets, and by integrating our business through effective planning and allocation. Well, I'm pumped, aren't you? What does this mean? What do these people even do? Some of you live in a community that is served by a Chick-fil-A. You're familiar with Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A simply takes a little different view of this whole mission thing. Okay, so do this for me. Pretend you are at the eye doctor getting your annual eye exam. Which is clearer, A or B? It just doesn't have to be so complicated.
You want to thank somebody? You want to tell them how much you appreciate them? Managers, on a Friday afternoon, have a car wash and wash the cars of your employees. Do somebody's least favorite job one day.
And he said, you know, they didn't have to do that. And he said, I began to decide that day, from now on, I'm going to start doing some things around here I don't have to do. And that's the nature of engagement.
Before you leave Hawaii, I want you to write down somewhere what you believe to be your organization's top 3 business priorities. Armed with that, put that in your pocket, go back to your agency, and ask some of your employees the same question. I checked into a hotel a couple years ago, and the woman behind the check-in desk, very nice, but she was wearing a great big lapel pin on her uniform. It was like the size of a salad plate. And it said, I'm empowered. You know, I couldn't leave that alone. So I said to her, so what's the button? What's the button mean? She goes, oh, that? I don't know. They just told me to wear it. I mean, look, the woman's not even empowered to accessorize her outfit. 1939, Sergeant Major James Prentice was an officer in the Gordon Highlanders, a Scottish regiment of the British Army in World War II. He found himself on the island of Orkney, on the extreme northern coast of Scotland, with 36 men in his platoon, on maneuvers in preparations for the battle soon to come in far-off Burma. Suddenly a snowstorm descended upon the island, and Jim was looking for a place for his men to sleep for the night. He saw a farmhouse. He ran up to the farmhouse. He knocked on the door. The farmer came down already in his night clothes. And Jim said, can my men sleep in your barn for the night? And the farmer said, yes, but only under one condition, and that is that everyone will come in and share a hot meal in our kitchen. Tiny kitchen, tiny rough-hewn wooden table could only accommodate 6 people at a time. 6 at a time, Sergeant Major Jim Prentice ushered his men into that kitchen where they had an inelegant feast of ground beef, turnips, carrots, and pancakes. There was a young boy sitting in the corner of the room, about 9 years old. He was the farmer's son. He came up to the sergeant major when he noticed that only when all 36 had been fed did the sergeant major sit down to see if there was anything left. And so the young boy came up to him and he said, why'd you go last? You're the boss man. And the sergeant major looked at him and said, lad, first ye feed the troops. They're nae use hungry. First you feed the troops. They're no use hungry. 40 years later, Jim Prentice found himself once again on the island of Orkney, this time not as a soldier, but as a tourist, and this time accompanied by his wife and his grown daughter, who is now my wife. And one afternoon, Jim was going for what he would call a wee donna, a short walk. He was looking for a pub, if you want to know. And he came upon land that bore a strange air of familiarity, and suddenly he knew he was there at that same farm. And about this time, a man in his late 40s came walking across the farm, and Jim engaged with him, and he said, you won't believe it, it was back during the war. It was right here, and a snowstorm came in, and I went to that door, and I knocked on the farmhouse door, and the farmer came down, and the man interrupted him, and he said, first ye feed the troops. And Jim said, oh, you're no the wee boy. He said, aye. He said, I've always remembered I've always remembered that night, primarily because we didn't have anything for breakfast the next morning. But I've always remembered what that sergeant major told me. First, you feed the troops. I took over the management of this farm about 20 years ago. He said, I've always remembered that. First, you feed the troops, and we've done pretty well. First, you feed the troops. Make sure your managers are good leaders. Hire for fit. Define your mission in clear and compelling terms. Ask your people, what are our top 3 business priorities? Make sure they understand how their work matters. Say thank you and say it a lot. And feed the troops first. Everybody is hungry for something. What are your people hungry for?